everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Well guys, I wanted to come out with this nice and early, get this all ready for you to start discussing yet another eclipse. But this time I'm going to be talking to you guys actually about the lunar eclipse that's going to be taking place in the sign of Scorpio, coming in here pretty soon. This is going to be happening on May 5th of 2023. Before I get into today's lecture, please do me a favor, click the subscription button below, make sure you're subscribed, give me a thumbs up, and drop me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from, how this is aspecting you in your own chart, and what you guys are feeling. I would love to hear from you. As always, I appreciate all your guys' love, support. We're seeing so much growth in the channel. I just want to take time to say thank you to all of you guys who are members and supporters and people who donate to my channel, who make it possible for me to create this content for you guys. So big thanks. Well, we are going to be looking at actually the last eclipse in Scorpio in the series of eclipses that have been taking place for several years now. I'll take you guys back in time a little bit and touch on some of these other eclipses that have taken place, but we are getting ready to actually see the North Node move into the sign of Aries. It'll be taking place this July, and the South Node is going to be moving into the sign of Libra. If you guys saw my video that I did on the solar eclipse in Aries, that was the very first eclipse that ushered in these new series of eclipses that we're going to be seeing associated with the nodal changes. But this is the last eclipse that we're going to see in the Scorpio, Taurus aspects of eclipses, and we won't see any more of these, at least this one in Scorpio, for about 9 years. There'll be one more eclipse that we're going to see in Taurus, and that'll be at the end of October, but no more Scorpio eclipses. Okay, so this is the last one. As you guys know, we had the eclipse that was around the 19th of April. This is going to be 2 weeks later because eclipses come in pairs. So this is kind of bookended with that solar eclipse in Aries. 2 eclipses, one that's a brand new, pivotal, new beginning, and one that is a very emotional ending and conclusion. And we've got 2 eclipses that are associated with the planet Mars. So there is lots of action, lots of cutting, lots of frustration, lots of anger, things like that that are going to be coming up from these eclipses. And as we know, whenever the moon is in Scorpio and we see a lunation, whether it's a new moon or a full moon, we feel the intensity. We feel that shift of life and death and regeneration, endings, and also new beginnings. Now, in particular, this eclipse will be coming in on May the 5th, 2023. So happy Cinco de Mayo for everyone. I hope you guys have a drink for this eclipse because it's going to be a doozy. It's going to be taking place at 10:34 a.m. Pacific time or 1:34 p.m. Eastern time on the 5th. Obviously, I know we've got people all over the world, so adjust your time zones accordingly. But the reason why I put out the solar eclipse video early, the Mercury retrograde video early, was to talk to you guys really about how those eclipses were really speaking to this one, those transits. We had a Mercury retrograde in opposition to this eclipse. Mercury's been kind of changing direction, changing his mind, going back and forth about what he wants to change, what he wants to grow, what he wants to invest in. And we've also seen lots of other energy in this axis before. So in particular, this degree is going to be at 14 degrees. So if you have anything like, let's say around 13 and 15 degrees of Scorpio, sun, moon, rising, personal planets, pay attention because this is going to be an eclipse that's very personal for you. And Scorpio is the 8th sign of the zodiac. It does represent the shadow self, death, regeneration, transformation, joint resources, psychological changes, and it is a fixed water sign. So it has connections to being more committed, more rigid, right? More heavily focused. And it's a sign that's ruled both by Pluto as well as Mars. And this eclipse is going to be at 14 degrees. So it's going to be at a Taurus degree, which represents life, growth, resources, banking, investments. Now, we've seen a series of eclipses that have been taking place here really since the better part of 2020, when we saw the very first lunar eclipse in Taurus, which kicked off these series of eclipses. 2021. So it was the fall of 2021. So it's been going on for about 2 years. If you guys go back in time and you look at both the fall of 2021 and then you also look at the spring of 2022, this is where we saw eclipses happening in the sign of Taurus or in Scorpio. Now, the moon in the sign of Scorpio is not comfortable, so I'm anticipating that there is going to be a lot of dramatic emotional shifts, changes with our emotions, our home, and also Scorpio does what Scorpio does. It purges, detoxifies, and clears out things, usually through a process of some kind of event that manifests as a crisis to try to wake us up and make us become aware of where we need to kind of clear some of this stuff out. So we may be more aware of some of these toxic emotional patterns or habits. I'd like to read to you guys the Sabian symbol first for this particular eclipse. So since it's 14 degrees and change, we're going to be reading 15 degrees of Scorpio. If you guys are ever wondering where to find the books that I use on this channel, there's a link below to my Amazon storefront. I just put all my books there in my tarot decks that I use, so if you guys are interested in taking a look, you can. So this is the Sabian Symbols, a screen of prophecy, and we're going to read page 258, and this is the Sabian symbol for 15 degrees of Scorpio. Scorpio 15, children playing around 5 mounds of sand. The theme is halcyon days. The symbol speaks to the formative stages of social consciousness and the earliest efforts to develop personal competence. The image of children playing around 5 mounds of sand alludes to a time where the 5 senses and symbolizes playfulness, creativity, self-expression, and spontaneity. It also refers to the psychological aspect of interpersonal relationships, learning how to stimulate interest and work cooperatively with others. The emphasis here is on learning how to get the most out of the potential in any experience. At its highest, it symbolizes childlike eagerness to find special gifts waiting to be discovered in the continual process of self-unfoldment and the genuine delight of learning how to do new things. Watch for a lack of sense of direction or purpose in life. The accent is on learning in the 5 senses. Activities center around creative exploration. Your greatest advantage lies in forming your own impressions. Judge from your own experience. Do your own thinking. Guard against letting your physical desires overcome your better judgment. Be careful about going overboard when you're having a good time. Learn when to stop or say no. But stepping stones would be social development, self-expression, discovery, creativity, the 5 senses, playfulness, and innocence. I like that. The 15 degrees of the fixed signs are interesting. It is conjunct that by just a matter of minutes. The 15 degree point of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius are the halfway points through these fixed signs. And so it does represent where we see the pressure of the wheel turning, right? So it's where we're actually getting ready to meet the halfway point between the cardinal degrees, right? Of Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So this is kind of like where the levee breaks. I know, bad reference with Scorpio, but literally it's like where the levee breaks and it's like, okay, this thing is changing. So this is the halfway point through the seasons. We may start to kind of see what we've been building and kind of working towards. The second decan of Scorpio in particular, that 10 to 19 degrees is associated with the planet Neptune. And it has this very strong kind of 6 of Cups energy. So if you guys are familiar with tarot, you know that this particular card is a card that's associated with nostalgia and memories, and it's all about our childhood or reconnecting or rekindling with someone. It's a card that represents innocence, happiness, simplicity, and a sense of longing for the past. So I think when we take that card into consideration, also with the second decan being associated with Neptune, this decan is known as a Pisces degree or decan. So it shares like a dreamy, intuitive quality that we're blending the energy of Pisces with Scorpio. So Scorpio represents intensity, passion, desire, shadow self, change, and transformation. When we throw that Pisces decan on there, we start to kind of realize that we're romanticizing the idea of the past or what we experienced in the past or how the past can potentially change and transform in the future. It's a really wonderful card. I'd see it a lot for like reconciliations in relationships, reconnecting, getting in touch with the inner child. So while this is a uncomfortable eclipse, just being in Scorpio in general and some of the aspects, I'm going to keep telling you guys the same thing I told you in the astro weather this last week, that you want to make lemonade and actually really work with some of the water trines that will be taking place at the time of the eclipse. Now, when like the Six of Cups comes up in a tarot reading, right, for myself or even for a client, it can indicate a period of like needing to revisit old memories or reconnecting with people from the past. So that can come up, right, while we're in the midst of a Mercury retrograde, and whether it's just things that we're thinking about, or we're just looking through old letters or text messages, or, you know, we're reconnecting with people from the past on social media. There can be a lot of sentimental feelings that can come up and like longing for carefree days from our childhood, but it can also represent a desire for comfort, security, and emotional support. The one thing you want to watch for when this card comes up is the tendency to hold on to the past and struggling with moving forward and embracing something new that's coming into your life. So I think a lot of this eclipse is going to be showing us where we can have a tendency to not want to let go of old patterns or behaviors or negative emotions that's holding us back. And I would say that anyway within this decade, but the fact that it's in opposition to Mercury retrograding, we're realizing that inability to kind of detox or flush some of those negative patternings, or you know, being so emotionally connected to trauma or drama is really inhibiting us to physically, or from physically moving forward, right? So when we have this full moon, I think we're going to see that in order to move forward into the future, we have to kind of reconcile with the past and learn to let some things go, and no longer allow ourselves to fall back into some of these like mental patternings of wanting to bring the past into the future. Now, if we take a look back on where this particular eclipse was seated, let me show you guys. We go back to the solar eclipse that we actually had in October of 2022. So we had a solar eclipse roughly 6 months ago. I distinctly remember this eclipse because it was a solar eclipse that was in conjunction to Venus. So on one hand, it's extra sweet because it's basically saying we're so passionate about what we want to change and transform and what we want to bring in and what we're hoping to kind of achieve. But also that theme of Scorpio is, but what do we have to lose, or what do we have to change or transform, right? What's dying and kind of being reborn in order to kind of bring this new thing in? And with Venus being so closely associated with that particular eclipse and, you know, kind of being debilitated, it makes me feel like there's like some sweet and salty aspects of like what's going on right now, that we know that there are things coming in that's good, but it comes with sacrifice, or it comes with healing, or it comes with letting something go, or embracing something new. So if you guys go back to the fall of 2022 and you look at the intentions that you were setting right around the end of October, now 6 months later, as this is maturing into a full moon, lunar eclipse, now we're starting to see the physical manifestations of some of these emotional seeds that we planted, because we've got the sun and all these other planets in Taurus. And that's what a full moon is, when the moon and the sun are in opposition. But this is like on steroids because it's an eclipse. So one other thing I noticed is that if we go back in time and look at another new moon, has nothing to do with the eclipse cycles, but still interesting nevertheless. There was a new moon that we had in 2018. And it was right around November 7th. So you guys can even go further back in time. We had a new moon that took place around 15 degrees of Scorpio. I don't have the exact time. There we go. So it was around 15 degrees of Scorpio. The eclipse that we're about to experience is going to be 14 degrees and change. So this is the most recent, by degree, closest kind of new moon. So I could even say, hey, there have been some things that have been going on really since, fall of 2018, where you were setting intentions or manifesting something in the Scorpio area of your life, because now that is becoming an eclipse at around the same degree. At the time, Jupiter was involved, so it was magnifying the themes of change and transformation. And we were also in the midst of a Venus retrograde, and Venus was in opposition to Uranus, so there was like lots of change going on in the skies. And it was all kind of getting banged up with some squares to the nodes. So if you go back several years to the fall of 2018, there were some themes either within our relationships, some themes also within our careers and our purpose that were all getting kind of reorganized. And maybe we were experiencing crisis then, and now we're realizing why some of those things were falling apart in the world or in our own personal lives, to be able to fully kind of bring us what we have now. Now, like I said, this is the last lunar eclipse that we're going to be having in Scorpio, so it won't be for another 9 years or so until we start seeing these eclipses come back, and that's going to be when we have the North Node in Scorpio and the South Node in Taurus. So what might we see with eclipses in general, right? What do eclipses bring? I think especially in the sign of Scorpio, expect emotional intensity. So we're going to see with lunar eclipses, these are known to amplify emotions because we're actually looking at the polarity between the sun and the moon. And the moon being in Scorpio, where it's bringing up this emotional purging, detoxifying, kind of like freak out, all of these emotions are going to come to the surface. And obviously there is a wide range of emotions. So it can be feelings of sadness, anger, anxiety. It's important to be really gentle with yourself when you're experiencing these eclipses and allow yourself to feel these emotions without any judgment. And I'm going to keep talking about feeling your way into the emotions because really that's the only way that you're going to be able to process what's going on. You guys can look back at the eclipses that we had in the spring of 2022. We had a lunar eclipse in Taurus then. We also had a solar eclipse. We had a lunar eclipse in Scorpio then. We had a solar eclipse in Taurus. I'll show you those in just a moment so I can refresh your memory. But something similar to whatever was going on that you were working through the spring of last year. So emotional intensity is expected. I also notice a change in sleep patterns. I see that with myself. I see that a lot with my clients. It can disrupt your sleep patterns, obviously, because when the moon is full, we're already feeling this like high energy that's kind of going on in the ethers, and everybody's kind of picking up on that. So it can make us feel more restless. We might have issues with insomnia. It's important the days revolving around the eclipse to have a good nighttime routine, right? And to really relax and try to do what you can to unwind. Practice good sleep and create a relaxing bedtime routine to help you get the rest that you need. So if you have to take a bath before, going to bed, or a shower, if you want to try to do some yoga, if you want to do some meditation, or, give yourself a massage, anything like that. Like, these are the things that you want to do before you go to sleep, so that way you can have a little bit more peace. Energy levels are going to be all over the place. So unlike the solar eclipse that we have in Aries, the lunar eclipse in Scorpio, I think it is going to affect our energy levels, and it's going to make us feel more tired and more lethargic than usual. It's really important to listen to your body when we have the eclipses going on, and give yourself the time to rest if necessary. So pushing past your emotional limits, pushing past your physical limits. If you're in the midst of going through some kind of crisis, you have to know when to say, hey, I got to slow down and rest and recuperate, especially because Scorpio eclipses can have a tendency to just want to push through things and stay busy or stay active, and not be allowing yourself to slow down and feel like you're being vulnerable. Otherwise, you're going to feel a little out of control. I definitely think we're going to see some changes in our moods. So that's still kind of building on the emotional intensity. But with lunar eclipses, it brings sudden changes in our moods or our behavior, leading to a feeling of just being out of sorts. Okay. So with the sun and the moon reaching this climax point where they're polar to each other, I think it's really, really, really important to be mindful that you have to be patient with yourself. You have to be patient with other people. This is going to be a time where self-care and routines are going to be key to keeping you grounded and feeling comfortable. Scorpio moons are intended to kind of clean all the skeletons out of the closet. So if there are things you've been afraid of handling, dealing with, acknowledging, working through, especially when it comes to shadow self issues, or when it comes to going deep in a therapy session, or talking about your fears, or being able to be more vulnerable, it's really, really, really important that you're taking the time to honor your emotions and really focusing on keeping yourself comfortable, because we're going to feel very emotionally uncomfortable with this eclipse. And then probably the big one for me is transformations and growth, right? So if a full moon is about completion, and then a lunar eclipse is about really highlighting like, hey, this is like the real lesson of what we've been working for, the better part of the last 2 years. Definitely transformation is a keyword when we look at Scorpio, but growth is the keyword when we look at a full moon lunar eclipse. So on a positive note, it can bring opportunities for growth and transformation, superseding and coming out of what has been crisis situations in the past. It can be a time for letting go of old patterns and beliefs and embracing new beginnings. You know, maybe it's just me. Like, I have a lot of planets in Scorpio. I got 4 planets in Scorpio. And I feel like these eclipses the last 2 years have been really wild. I think partially because the last 2 years they were opposing Uranus, so it was very destabilizing. It was like through some of the emotional shocks and having to kind of work through fears, it had a physical effect on me personally. And then we had squares from Saturn, right? So this time around, yes, we still have oppositions to Uranus, so emotional things that are coming up do affect our body. But we're not seeing the squares to Saturn, okay? And where we have a lot more support now is we're actually having trines. It's a loose water trine, but we're going to see trines both to Saturn and Neptune. So it's allowing us to consciously take time to mourn, to process, to heal, to learn spiritually, to take a step back and integrate. It's also forming trines to Mars, which is wonderful considering that's one of the co-rulers for this particular eclipse. So it's allowing us to basically say, hey, I can't just push all the time. I have to really listen to my body, listen to my emotions, and where these emotions are coming up because they want to be acknowledged. So I think that there's a lot of medicine in this, if you guys are willing to kind of work with that, because the intention behind eclipses is to kind of clear the energies out, right? So at the end of the day, it's not here to bring us crisis. It's here to help us initiate change and really kind of complete something that we've been working on for some time. Now, eclipses symbolically, right? Especially because I see Scorpio energy as more kind of like ancient, mystical, magical, spiritual, esoteric. You know, eclipses, especially lunar eclipses, have been seen in ancient cultures as a sign of impending doom. So it's not unusual to kind of feel like, oh my God, there's eclipse coming, you know, what's going to happen, what's going on. They are darker, more challenging energies to deal with, right? So for example, ancient Chinese astrologers and mystics believe that a dragon was devouring the moon during the time of an eclipse, and it signaled a time of upheaval and chaos, okay? But what does Scorpio teach us? That the chaos only comes if we're resisting the change, right? And that sometimes there can be this catalyst for change that comes up through a crisis scenario, and it really is meant to kind of trigger us emotionally, spiritually, or psychologically. Now, they also saw this as a time for rituals, which I'm neutral about because personally, I've said to you guys before, I don't really do a lot of rituals around eclipses because we don't know how everything's going to shake out, especially with this particular eclipse, because we don't know what's going to shake out with oppositions to Uranus. There's going to be a lot of destabilizing things going on physically that brings up fear. And we are also going to see that we're in the midst of a Mercury retrograde. So there's something still physically kind of changing, and it's going to take some time for this to settle out. Now, this eclipse may affect us for the better part of the next couple of weeks. It's not going to be something that hits exactly on that day. As you're watching this, at some point, even in April, you may feel like, yeah, these eclipse energies are already playing out for me, right? So whether it's happening just after the solar eclipse or it's happening a week after this lunar eclipse in May, it doesn't happen that exact day. The eclipse does, but the energies still kind of reverberate outward for a little bit. But on to rituals. So other cultures have seen lunar eclipses as a time for rituals and ceremonies, right? The ancient Mayans, for example, performed bloodletting rituals during eclipses to honor the gods and ensure a good harvest. Sacrifice, ritual, release, letting go, things that represent life and death. Now, I'm not encouraging you guys to do bloodletting rituals, obviously, but what I'm getting at is that it's not unusual for there to be eclipses that trigger this feeling of, what do I have to do to appease the gods? What else must I sacrifice? What more is necessary? If you're feeling that way, I encourage you to try to hold space and look at how the effects of the eclipse can actually be trying to help you shake something out that you've been resisting or unwilling to deal with, right? And like I said, Scorpio, getting all those skeletons out the closet. So it may be a time where you're working with the shadow self, embracing that, you know, being more so willing to kind of shine a light on some of those topics that feel uncomfortable or kind of creepy, but need to be dealt with and acknowledged. Ritually speaking, during eclipses, I always like to have a black and a white candle going. That's just what I do to represent that balance of these two energies, and to really allow us to be able to hold space and kind of protect from what can be more intense, kind of chaotic energies that are going on during the eclipses. Just in a sense of getting hit with other people's stuff. Right? Like I personally won't do readings on eclipses. It's not something that I will do because the energy is way too much for me. I try to spend that day meditating, resting. I'll burn incense, have some candles going. I'll try to do some chanting, and I might do a fast. But generally, I'm not doing anything because I'm just trying to hold space because I know that collectively everybody's going through it and I don't want to get hit with that storm. So if you guys are going to do any ritual work, I would really encourage you to wait until the moon is making some better aspects. It's going to go through Sagittarius and it's going to come into a trine with Jupiter in the days to follow. You may also wait until the moon is coming into like Pisces several days later to do that. But I wouldn't be doing it when the moon is in Capricorn. I wouldn't be doing it when the moon is in Aquarius. I would wait until it's making a trine to Jupiter through its transit in Sag. Days later, I would wait until the moon is in Pisces in between Saturn and Neptune. So not all new moons or full moons or lunar eclipses or solar eclipses are created equally. Both of the eclipses that we're going to be seeing in this cycle are like total, wild cards. So before you go doing anything, really make sure that that's what you want to do. I try not to like lecture you guys. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that I don't just like astrology. I like tarot. I like herbalism. I like working with, like magical things. And I believe in the power of that stuff. You can do a lot with just a little bit of something. So you don't have to necessarily have all the bells and the whistles and the herbs and the crystals and the oils to make magic happen. Magic is an intention. It's an intention that you set. You can do a lot of damage with a birthday candle or a pen and paper. But I'm going to tell you guys to be very careful what you're asking for during this eclipse. Not only because things are not clear, but we are going to have Mercury that is going to be in Taurus at 8 degrees. And that is a degree that deals with black magic. That is a degree that deals with some more sinister, kind of darker things. I could see some people getting really, really crazed or obsessive or fixated on wanting a certain thing or trying to produce some kind of outcome or trying to, manipulate something or wanting their way. And I would just encourage you guys to be very careful what you're saying, what you're asking for, and what you're doing. Because I do think that there is going to be some energies associated with this eclipse that are going to potentially have some effects on people that are not necessarily positive. Okay, I'll just kind of leave it at that. We do see that during the time of eclipses, traditionally in ancient culture, this was the time for connecting with deities, right? Really kind of appeasing the gods. So in many cultures, these lunar eclipses were seen as a manifestation of the divine. They were associated with certain deities. The ancient Greeks believed that the goddess Selene, who represented the moon, was in control of lunar eclipses. So if you want to work with lunar goddesses, right, if you want to put out candles or put out stones or incense or things like that, you can do that. And I don't think that this eclipse is inherently negative. I think actually this is a lot easier to deal with, in my opinion, than the solar eclipse. This is just kind of the fallout of what we're going to be, experiencing after that solar eclipse in Aries. But whatever you pray to, what you believe in, if it's your higher self, if it's a particular deity, if it's a particular spiritual or religious figure, I feel like this is the opportunity for us to kind of really get in touch with that more mystical, magical side while the moon is in Scorpio. And I think eclipses, especially lunar eclipses, remind us that there is a celestial order, right? So some cultures view lunar eclipses as a reminder of the order of the cosmos. The ancient Egyptians believed that lunar eclipses were caused by a giant serpent that threatened to swallow the moon, but was ultimately defeated by the gods, reaffirming the order of the universe and that we are all divinely protected. So even though you may hear some really intense reports and some doom and gloom, I just want to remind you guys that these eclipses, like retrogrades and other celestial events, are happening because there is a divine order, and we are here to be able to kind of supersede some of these astrological transits and go through it so we can evolve. Unlike a solar eclipse where it's going to play out for months, this is kind of closing a door, closing a chapter. So you want to take a look at these previous lunar eclipses that we had. Let me show them to you really quick so that way you guys can get a refresher. So if you guys remember the solar eclipse that we had in Taurus in spring of 2022, okay, so think about what was going on then. That was an action-packed solar eclipse. And then 2 weeks later, we had that lunar eclipse on May 15th. That was in Scorpio. That whole period, I remember it was pretty gnarly. The South Node Moon connection. We've also seen a lot of turbulence financially in the markets because, you know, Taurus does deal with banking and resources and our own values. Scorpio does deal with debt, taxes, loans, mortgages, all that stuff. So when we have these eclipses, we have seen some things rocking and rolling financially. And then we had another set of eclipses that came in the fall of 2022, where we had, like I said, that solar eclipse in Scorpio, which is what seeded a lot of the events that are about to take place from this lunar eclipse in Scorpio. And we had a lunar eclipse in Taurus conjunct Uranus in opposition to the Sun and Venus. Also more financial things, and that square to Saturn was brutal. That week was my birthday week, and I remember looking at that T-square being like, oh man, 2023 is just, it's going to be the gift that just keeps on giving. We don't have the same Saturn squares, okay? We don't. And you guys are not going to see Pluto squares like you've been seeing with the last eclipse. So in that sense, I feel like it's easier. But we're still experiencing oppositions in Scorpio to Uranus, which is extremely destabilizing. It feels very emotionally all over the place. That I do think is going to be uncomfortable. Whenever we see oppositions to Uranus, it's like the floor drops out. The moon represents the collective. So if the moon's going through Scorpio collectively, people are scorping out, I like to say, about what's going on in the world, what's dying, what's ending, you know, fear, fear, fear. And then it makes that opposition to the Sun and Uranus, which basically means that we're going to start seeing some real physical manifestations of our own inability to kind of emotionally rein ourselves in. Now, when we look at the Taurus-Scorpio axis, right, in particular, what's getting triggered here with a full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio is, like I said, transformation, endings, intensity. But Scorpio is very much associated with deep emotions, power, mystery. And when combined with the energy of a full moon lunar eclipse, these will be amplified. So the themes that are going to be associated very specifically with a lunar eclipse in Scorpio, number one is letting go. Okay, I'm going to play you guys the Frozen song. I won't sing it because I'm tone deaf, but I'm just going to let you guys mentally kind of sing that to yourselves. Scorpio is associated with death and rebirth. So this eclipse is likely to bring up opportunities to release old patterns, beliefs, relationships, and situations that no longer serve you and your growth. It's a time to let go of what's holding you back and make space for new beginnings. Intense emotions, obviously. If you guys have a natal moon in the 8th house, or if you have a Scorpio moon or moon conjunct Pluto, you're no stranger to this emotional intensity. You might fare better with an eclipse like this. But Scorpio is a sign that's comfortable with the shadow side, and during a full moon lunar eclipse, emotions run very deep, right? Scorpio is about penetrating energy. So yes, it's a time of heightened emotions, but also intuition and the ability to know when it's time to let go and transform. So remember, be gentle with yourself and with others when some difficult topics come up. When I think of Scorpio and Taurus, I think of power and control. Scorpio is associated with power and control, and this might bring up issues in regards to boundaries, okay? Manipulation, power struggles. It's important to be aware of your own dynamics and to work towards creating healthy boundaries with yourself and within your relationships. Now, this might be sexually and in terms of intimacy. This might be in terms of joint resources and finances and spending and debt versus like saving topics. It can also be about really clearing out old wounds and making space for new life. Okay, I liken the energy of like all this Scorpio is like fertilizer. Then it's going and it's fertilizing the ground so that way you can go and plant the seeds. So sometimes a little bit of chaos or a little bit of crisis can actually be really good because it can be the catalyst for kind of going, okay, it's time to clear everything out so we can focus on like a new harvest. And secrets and mysteries, you know, I think that's especially true during a Scorpio eclipse. But with some of the trines going on with Mars and Neptune, with that Mercury being at 8 degrees, I think that this is really going to bring up the theme of like Scorpio being a very hidden and mysterious sign, okay? And during a full moon lunar eclipse here, there may be a desire to explore deeper truths or uncover hidden information. It's a time to trust your intuition and also dive into the unknown. So getting readings, working with pendulums, working with tarot cards, talking to an astrologer, talking to a therapist, talking to a healer, doing some past life regression, some meditation, some, hypnosis. I mean, anything that's going to help us get out of our own way, right? I think can be really helpful with some of the aspects with the trines to planets in Pisces. So themes that you might see that are going to come up are, I think, this very like life and death type theme where, yes, there's going to be endings, but it's making way for new beginnings. Now, if we look specifically at the ruler of this particular, there's two rulers, but the traditional ruler of a lunar eclipse in Scorpio is going to be Mars. Mars is still moving through Cancer, okay? It's still kind of chugging away. So we're still working and seeing how that's manifesting in a sense of letting our emotions kind of take the wheel right now, which isn't always a good thing. But at least we're starting to see towards the tail end of this Mars transit, Mars is starting to come into a trine with Neptune. And that's about feeling like we're in alignment with our divine purpose. We know what we're fighting for. We're making sacrifices for some things. We're actually learning to work with our emotions in a powerful way and allowing that to be part of our vision, right? We're utilizing our emotions to help us kind of bring about our visions. We also see that Mars is starting to come into a sextile with the Sun and Uranus. So through some of these sudden changes that are kind of taking place, or these like anything go moments, it's prompting us to jump into making changes and standing up and protecting what we need to protect, especially on an emotional or on a domestic kind of level. Now, if we look at this from the aspect of Mars in a square to Jupiter, because that's another aspect that's kind of coming up, that is definitely making things feel more inflamed. And we're going to feel that anyway, because we're starting to watch Jupiter come into a conjunction with the North Node and square Pluto. So I don't think it's just the Jupiter square Mars aspect where we're feeling, because we're becoming more self-aware, we're becoming more I think taking responsibility, I think following our beliefs, following our intuition, our vision. I mean, Jupiter in Aries is like really standing up, and it's really encouraging us to kind of say, you know what, enough is enough. This isn't my belief system anymore, or I believe so strongly in this, or I'm going to share this thing, that it's really pushing us to some really uncomfortable places. Jupiter square Mars aspects can be confrontational. It can be explosive. It can be dangerous, but it's not going to be in an exact square. And we're also seeing that Mars is in harmony with the moon. These are loose trines. So we see a loose water trine all around here. But still, it's still going to be a grand water trine. And that is going to be about getting in touch with our emotions, getting in touch with our intuition, being able to use these for positive things. But it can also have, with the water signs kind of harmonizing, especially Saturn and Neptune and Mars, loss, death, grief, endings, like literal physical ones that are taking place. So there can be, with that energy tying into the Six of Cups, is like reminiscing on who we once were, what we once had, the relationships we once had, the places we once lived, the family members we once had. There is an essence of sadness that kind of comes with some of those water trines. I think also having Mars, kind of being debilitated, being in the sign of Cancer, it is moody. So there is a lot of moodiness that's kind of going on in the skies right now. And I'm not wild about the inflated emotions, passions, and desires that can get a little bit out of control with that square to Jupiter. If we look at it from the aspect of Pluto, okay, because Pluto is the modern day ruler of this particular sign, Scorpio. Pluto is locked and loaded. He is now retrograde by the time that we have this eclipse. So we are now internally reviewing, like, holy shift, what the heck has happened over the last month and a half? So many crazy things have happened since the end of March. You got to look at where Aquarius is in your chart. Just Pluto going there has likely for everybody brought up some kind of sudden crisis and awareness about what is getting ready to change. So at this point, the preview is pretty much over. You're going to see Pluto drop back down into Capricorn here pretty soon in, I think, May, June. And once that happens, then we're going to spend a number of months with Pluto in Capricorn until it comes back at the beginning of January. So you have to let me know where that played out for you guys. It's definitely played out for me. And we see that Pluto is landlocked with a square to the node. So it's saying like something must change and transform. Some crisis needs to come out, it needs to come up. Collectively, because Pluto in Aquarius is about the collective, it can be about a collective awareness and awakening, but it's about uncomfortable changes where we must change, transform, right, in order to evolve, especially with the squares to the nodes. And Pluto is also forming that square to Jupiter, so we're going to see a lot of greed coming up, a lot of possessiveness stuff coming up, a lot of I need to have this, and there's going to be some power and control issues. And we've got Mercury also in a square with Pluto. Keep in mind, guys, okay, the South Node, Scorpio energy, is what we release, what we purge, what we let go of. It's like we've been there, we don't want to go back. So when these eclipses come up, especially lunar eclipses in Scorpio, it's like, nope, we've seen this before, we're not going back there, we're clearing this out. It's about literally collectively moving forward. And I love the fact that we have the South Node ruler kind of harmonizing with the moon and Neptune. So a lot of people are going to start kind of realizing, tapping in psychically and intuitively, something's not right here. Something's going on, which is why I spoke so much about the retrograde in this eclipse as preparing you actually in the Mercury retrograde for some of the financial and crisis fallout that may happen right around the beginning of May, right? Not wild about Mercury square Pluto and watching Mercury go retrograde square Pluto, because I think we're actually going to find out a lot about some financial scandals, some, do-si-do that's going on within the financial systems and things that are kind of, being put in place to have more control over physical assets. And I don't think it's just about money. I think it's going to be about power and like literal power. I think it's going to be about physical resources. If I were you guys, I'd be going and reading up on what's kind of going on right now, what's being discussed within certain supergroups in the world, just leave it at that, where they're starting to discuss whether or not water rights are a thing, if we are entitled to have rights to water or not, whether or not, water is going to start being kind of privatized, and if we're going to have access to it, and if people who may not be able to afford having access to water in the future, should they be allowed to have these resources? And I think a lot of that's actually coming from Saturn and Pisces, but also the fact that the moon is going to be trining Saturn and Neptune and also Mars. So this may incentivize people to start thinking, do I want to be looking at, getting property with a well? Where does my water come from? How can I ensure that I have clean water? Just from this eclipse, and people might start kind of getting stunned, realizing that there may be rationing or there may be like limitations in regards to that. I also think that people are going to be hearing more about what's been going on with this incentive within some countries to start creating programs for people who are having extreme mental emotional health issues, with that moon in Scorpio being crisis, the trine to Neptune and also Mars, where there is an incentive or an agenda to start providing certain services where if people want to participate or accept some kind of assistance with assisted suicide. I know, sensitive topics, but some concerning stuff, right? At least for me, while the North Node is in Taurus and Jupiter is getting ready to go into Taurus, really what we're learning here is that the answer is life. It's not lower populations, it's not less people, it's not, okay, whoever wants to go can go, or, people can, make the decisions themselves. It's about how can we cultivate a world where we can create more life and we can have less crisis, and where maybe perhaps some of these crises are actually being created, making people feel like they don't have control and that they don't have what they need, or they're trying to get people out of their bodies, right? So while that static's going on in Scorpio, ground your energy out, right? Go and do something where you can get your feet in the dirt, something where you can be carrying your crystals, you can be eating well. Simple little acts that you can do to just stay grounded is going to be so helpful, because there's going to be a lot of static energy going around. Pay attention to dreams and intuition. I think that moon trine Neptune can bring up some very important visions and dreams at the time of this eclipse as well. Probably the other big one is going to be that moon oppose Uranus, which is emotionally destabilizing, shocking events, things that suddenly end. It's going to be the moon in opposition to Mercury, where we're seeing challenges in relating, communicating, especially in regards to finances and values. I could see a lot of people finding out that there's about to be changes within the bank that they're banking with, or there's going to be changes in regards to taxes in the next year, or that they're having to make some corrections with taxes or documents with Mercury retrograde in opposition to this. And also people possibly feeling like they're kind of put in a position where they have to make sudden adjustments or changes with their spending habits as well. Moon trine Mars, obviously emotions are blazing, passionate, and very fierce. And Mercury retrograde, reworking these ideas involving money and banking. And like I said, that 8th degree is a pretty potent degree, because 8th degree of Taurus in particular is definitely about darker magic and intentions. Probably the last aspect that I think that I have yet to mention is that the moon does quincunx or in conjunct Chiron. So both being in Mars signs, I think it's where we're actually dealing with crisis on a very personal level and how it affects our body. And we've got Venus in Gemini that is in a square with Neptune. So this is not an eclipse where you want to get scared about something that's happening financially and pull all of your money and put it into something else, right? Because Venus square Neptune is like, we're not seeing clearly, especially Venus being in a sign that's associated with communication, fraud, manipulation, control, somebody telling you something's going to go one way, it goes another way. Like, I wouldn't be doing any major transactions on an eclipse anyway, but especially with the Venus square Neptune and an eclipse in Scorpio, be careful with whose advice you buy, right? That's basically what the best advice I can give you, is be careful with whose advice you buy. Because to me, it seems like there's going to be some chaos going on and people being told, like, if you don't want this to happen, then make this decision. And I would just kind of sit back and kind of go, no, something's not sticking for me. And take your time before making any decisions. Obviously, when the moon's in Scorpio, when we're dealing with Scorpio energy, some things that you guys can do as a result of this eclipse to better harness this energy is banishing, healing, protecting, and transformation work. So if you want to go through a detox or a cleanse, if you want to go and get a healing, if you're focusing on banishing out negative patterns and habits, if you want to focus more on protecting your energy or your space, you know, Scorpio energy is potent. It is what exorcisms are made of, and rituals revolving around death and also like labor. So it is this balance between, regeneration, new life, and ending. It does kind of tie into that feeling of, multiple lifetimes, regeneration, dying and kind of coming back, and like the sacredness while we're in the springtime, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere where everything is alive. If it wasn't for an eclipse like this or a full moon in Scorpio, we wouldn't realize that all was not possible without endings, death, or regeneration. So we're having appreciation for that. Remember that this will bring about themes of wrapping up, closing out, healing, and transforming suddenly, because it's in opposition to Uranus. So things are going to happen suddenly. In particular, Scorpio around 15 degrees actually has connections with poisoning, okay, of any kind. So just a warning, I wonder if this is poisoning in food, news coming out about that. Certainly I'm concerned about that, hearing about how there's an incentive to start injecting livestock and animals with mRNA, and where some of this technology is going to start being worked into our food supplies. I'm not a scientist nor am I a doctor, but I think that that's probably something we're going to hear more about. And I think it's going to incentivize a lot of people to be mindful of where their food is coming from. I have no sponsors or associations, but my research has led me to either wanting to find local ranchers or a company called Good Ranchers who's actually fighting this, and they're creating subscription boxes, which I think is really cool. Definitely something I'm going to be doing. No paid affiliation. I'm just letting you know my research. And I think that that's probably what's going to start coming out, to be really honest with you. On top of learning more about, it might be crisis within food supplies, or we're hearing that there's a crisis within food supplies with this being in the sign of Taurus. Remember, Taurus is the bull, right? So it might be about beef, it might be about leather, it might be about natural resources, materials. I think we might see changes in directions in prices in some of these types of stocks, or even in physical assets, gold, silver, right? Particularly, I'm going to watch copper, because that's what Taurus is ruled by, Venus copper. Natural gas, that's something else I'm going to be looking at. That kind of stuff. Remedies for Scorpio-related crisis that may come up would be any herbs that are going to be helping detoxify or eliminate, and just kind of clearing the body out. So I like using charcoal for that, right? That's just something I like to use to kind of remove toxins. So as the eclipse comes up, you guys might be kind of going, I want to stop drinking, or I want to, you know, stop having sugar, or I want to stop eating processed food. Wonderful time to make those decisions. Any detoxifying environment, like a spa or journaling, therapy, other activities that are going to help you gain more clarity and be clear about what you need, and helping pursue more regenerative energy. Scorpio is also very associated with renewal, right? Sexual complexity, wisdom, magnetism, psychic awareness. Scorpio goes where very few other signs are willing to venture into. And I think that's the beauty of these particular lunations, is that it kind of shows us all collectively we have to go to hell and back in order to have better appreciation for, you know, what we have now. Wonderful time for healing, or talking with therapists, or talking with spiritual counselors, or getting readings or insights to kind of help you move through some of that stuff. Psychic development, and anything that's going to be about moving through crisis in cathartic ways, because there is going to be that blossoming of something new that comes. If you are a rock or a crystal hound, I would recommend working with red jasper, black obsidian, tourmaline, or smoky quartz for this particular eclipse. And herbs that I like to work with for Scorpio would definitely be basil, sage, catnip, nettle. All of these are great. Anything that's going to be kind of prickly or stinging as well. So you guys can use holly, or if you're into like having cactus or something, you can put that in an altar space. And that's my 2 cents about the eclipse. So I'm really curious to see what happens. I will now give you guys your predictions for each and every one of the 12 signs. As always, I'm a Western astrologer, so I practice Western or tropical astrology. This is going to be for the 12 various rising signs. I recommend listening for your rising sign first, and then your sun, and then your moon sign. Your rising sign is going to tell you literally which house the eclipse is going to be in. This will be whole sign, so if you are a Placidus user like I am, you want to be listening for or looking for where 14 degrees of Scorpio is in your chart. It's on the cusp of 15. So if you've got a planet on the cusp or a house on the cusp, round it to 15 degrees. That can be for progressed as well. So if you want to listen for your progressed chart, you can listen to that also. Obviously, the degrees that are going to be affected the most will be 13 to 16 degrees of Scorpio, sun, moon, rising, or personal planets. And secondly, those who are also going to be most affected will be 13 to 16 degrees of the fixed signs. So Taurus and Leo and Aquarius, you guys are going to be really feeling it, because you'll be experiencing the square. The truth is nobody gets a pass from the eclipses. Everybody's going to feel it. Especially because of the aspects where we've got planets so close to the nodes. So this is just going to be like the act 2 of the solar eclipse in Aries. But choose your own adventure. If you guys want to listen to your progress chart, you guys can do that. Okay. So let me go ahead and make this chart a whole sign for you guys. And we're going to start obviously with Aries first, and Aries rising. Pull out my tarot deck and let you guys know what I see. All right, so for Aries and Aries rising, you are going to be having a lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio in your natal 8th house. Okay, so the 8th house is joint resources, taxes, change, psychological changes, and transformations. So you may be talking because the moon rules your 4th house about changes in regards to the home or the family. Okay, so it's like family moving, changing, expenses changing in regards to family. That can be coming up. At the time of the eclipse, we actually have Mars, the ruler, in your 4th house, and Mars also rules your chart. So it's really obvious that change is on the horizon for you emotionally within your family or your dwelling. And I'm excited to see what happens, because I think some of the emotional changes and transformations that are going to be taking place are going to be happening, you know, literally for you financially, emotionally, or psychologically, helping you kind of move through some of this stuff. Probably something I should have mentioned, but now I'm seeing it, is that there is some mutual reception between the moon being in a Mars-related sign and Mars being in a moon-related sign. It's basically saying we have to go through this emotional clearing in order to kind of reap the rewards. So yeah, eclipses in the 8th house can bring a crisis, a tax crisis, a death in the family, a transition. It can be also an opportunity or a period of rebirth. So it would all be about how you look at it. I love the fact that it's going to be in harmony with your chart ruler. I do feel like there are a lot of things that are changing for you right now financially. I'm not just looking at Mars in your 4th house, I'm looking at Pluto in your 11th. So there's something shifting about your goals, especially in regards to how you're making money, the groups that you're working with, the friends that you're with. And you got a lot going on right now, as everybody else does. It's all of the signs. So for you, I think with so much activity in financial houses, I think it's just going to be about how you're getting on the same page with other people when it comes to your resources and changes within the home and the family. So let's take a look at what the cards say for you, my Aries. And the card that I get is the Hermit card. Turning inward, resting, reflecting, going on, an adventure, going your own direction, and having to kind of sit and marinate on what's important to you. I think it's interesting that this can have a direct correlation with Mercury, and we've got Mercury retrograding in the 2nd. And I think a lot of it is just you asking yourself, like, what can I do? Because all of the energy is in the 2nd house. So it's how can I make more money? How can I be more self-sufficient? How can I be able to bring more in? Because there may be some changes with the moon south node and the eclipse in the 8th house where a partner's not working as much, or they're going through some financial changes, or something is kind of being let go and you might feel like there's more on your shoulders. Maybe it's with a family member. So the Hermit card can kind of suggest that it's teaching you to turn inward and really reflect on what's important to you, to turn inward and really make a decision about what direction you're going in terms of your life. And yes, you may feel like retreating a little bit. You may feel like being alone. That can definitely happen with some of the water trines as well. Okay. And look, maybe a Virgo shows up to help you, because that card is associated with Virgo. There can be somebody who can kind of help pop up and help you really kind of figure out either a financial or a health related manner. Okay. Good luck. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? You've got a lunar eclipse in Scorpio happening in your natal 7th house of relationships, partners, and other people. Obviously, the 7th house is others. It's not you, although there's a lot of changes going on in your sign right now. Actually, there's a lot of energy in your 1st house. The North Node Sun, the Mercury retrograde there. There's a lot of focus on your body and what you need right now. And with the opposition to a lunar eclipse in your 7th, it does bring a lot of change and transformation. It can also bring heightened emotions with how you're communicating with a partner. So if you're in a business relationship, if you're married, if you have a significant other, with the South Node moon there, it can represent that there is some kind of like emotional breakdown, or there is some communication breakdown that's going on with another person. Obviously, eclipses in the 7th house bring you into relationship and meeting others. Now, since the moon rules the 3rd house, it's all about how they're communicating and talking to you. And it's all in opposition to the sun and Mercury and Uranus, which means you're like, I don't know what they want. I don't know what they need. There's like a bit of like going back and forth and being emotionally stressed, and you don't really know how to communicate. Take a breather is the best advice I can give you, because there is a lot of complexity with there being so many planets in cardinal type houses and angular houses that when the eclipse comes in, it's also putting pressure on Pluto in the 10th house. So there may be a sense of you going through a huge change and a transformation, not just with a relationship, but somebody you're working with, and how some of the changes that are happening are going to have a profound shift in regards to your career. So it can be a client, a business partner, the list goes on. At the time of the eclipse, Mars is in the 3rd house. So there is a sense of being able to kind of communicate and talk about what the plans are and where you're going and what you're doing. For some of you guys, it can be about things involving signing contracts, traveling, vehicles, or going back and forth and being able to kind of just communicate very passionately about what you need. But when eclipses happen in your opposite sign, relationships happen, like relationships change. So there can be a sense of makes or breaks in relationships, because this is a completion. Some Taurus and Taurus risings will see that there can be an abrupt ending of a relationship, or there can be somebody who is kind of closing that door or telling you that they can't, or they're not ready, or they want to end something. So just be patient, because I think with Mercury retrograde in your sign, there can be a sense of you just kind of turning inward and really reflecting and asking yourself, do I respond to this? Do I say something? Do I not? and whether or not you want to kind of go back and forth in terms of whatever this event may be. Let's see what the cards say for you, Taurus. The card that I get for you is the Two of Pentacles. I get the impression with the Two of Pentacles that there's a kind of like wishy-washiness. There is like a back and forth. This is in financial signs, and the Two of Pentacles can be about what you invest in, what you don't, what you keep, what you don't, what you decide to hold on to, what you don't, what you value, what you don't, and definitely some feeling of like having your hands full, right? So the hands full may be that you've got so much stuff going on, you know, professionally and work-wise, that you're just like, I can't handle an intense interaction with a partner right now, but your partner kind of goes through something if you have one. Now, if you don't, and you're in a relationship or the beginning stages, this can be a time where there's like a big decision that's made about, okay, are we together? Are we taking the next step? What are we doing? If you're single and you're hoping to meet somebody, to be honest with you, this is a much easier transit, because it does seem to insinuate there can be an opportunity either while traveling or connecting with people in a group setting to be able to initiate a new relationship. But you're still kind of figuring out how you want to communicate, what you want, what you have to say. And some of you guys, I think with Mercury retrograde in your first house, there's a secret, right? Because Mercury's in your sign, and you're holding back in not communicating what you love or what you want or how you feel. And you may feel indecisive about a romantic connection. You may not know how to communicate with what's on your heart. You may have a difficult time talking to your partner about kids. That can be something that can come up because of Mercury's involvement. So I think with the retrograde and the Two of Pentacles coming up, it's like, don't make any big decisions around the eclipse. Let things kind of settle a little bit. Then you'll have a better understanding once you've had some more time for things to settle and to make a choice about what you're holding on to and what you're letting go of, okay? Good luck, Taurus. With Gemini and Gemini rising, okay, we've got a lot of planets in Taurus. We've got a lunar eclipse taking place in your natal 6th house. This is all about health, the office, habits, patterns, that kind of stuff. The 6th house is your routine. So whether it's your coworkers, going to the gym, you know, crossing off your to-do list, a full moon in this part of your chart, a lunar eclipse represents like finally closing out a pattern or a habit. So if you've been, you know, trying to cut sugar, if you've been trying to, you know, kick a bad habit, if you've been trying to get back to the gym, if you've been waiting for some kind of medical results, if you've been also waiting to quit a job or make changes in your schedule, that may all come up as a result of a lunar eclipse in your 6th house. At the time of the eclipse, we're going to have a loaded 6th house, a loaded 12th house in opposition to your 6th. And this makes me feel like you're super squirrely. All of those planets in the 12th house can be bringing up, you know, self-undoing tendencies. So maybe where you feel like you've been really good when it comes to your health and routine, you've got a bunch of planets in the 12th house, a retrograde in the 12th house, and then a eclipse in the 6th. Well, there could be some slip-ups, you know, you're just like, you know, I was doing really well, and then I spent 3 days binging Netflix and eating snacks in bed, right? Very Taurus 12th house. There can also be a sense of you needing more space and needing more alone time, or there's some things going on for you emotionally that are affecting your daily routine, some changes even in your sleep habits, 12th house, that are keeping you from being able to kind of fully make the health changes that you're hoping to make. Now, when this eclipse happens, we're also going to see that the ruler is in the 2nd house, Mars. And I do feel like it's very much connected to your diet or your spending habits, right? Or what you have a tendency to do to bring yourself pleasure or security. So be mindful of that. Great time to kick a habit, but I have a feeling that there can be some things coming up for you emotionally or mentally where you're like maybe kind of falling off the horse a little bit. It's natural also when planets are in the 12th house, getting ready to come into your sign, that this is that natural clear out period right before you come into your birthday, which will be later in May. Be careful with accidents, be careful with your health, digestional issues, things like that. Food poisoning also, I don't like saying that, but that's possible with this particular eclipse in the 6th house, or realizing that you're eating or consuming something, or there's a habit that you're doing regularly that's just not good for you emotionally, okay? Let's take a look and let's see what the cards say for you, my Geminis. The card that I get is the Two of Cups. I like this. Even in spite of what can be some tricky, energies, you have support. So the Two of Cups is people who are there to help you, people in need. So I wonder, like, is this your care team? Is it a doctor? Is it a therapist? Is it a best friend? Is it a coworker who's like there for you? Two of Cups is about partnership, relationship, and harmony and meeting other people. So it might be a matter of just learning to reach out and say, hey, I need help. Can you help me through this? Can you help me work through this? So that way you're able to kind of get the support that you need at the time of this particular eclipse. I have a feeling with Saturn in your 10th and this particular eclipse, it could be some issues with your scheduling and issues also with coworkers. So focus on teamwork, working together, asking other people to help you help them. Good luck, Gemini. I hope that helps. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. Lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your natal 5th house. It's in a sister sign, especially if you have anything around the 13 to 16 degrees Cancer, Sun, Moon, or rising, you're going to experience a trine. So this is easier for you guys. A full moon lunar eclipse in your 5th house is bringing up the themes of love, children, creativity, and the heart. An eclipse here can be bringing the attention to a romantic partnership, to falling in love, to meeting somebody very significant, to getting in touch with the inner child, the inner artist, completing a personal project, and being able to be on stage and show your talent. I like that there is some loose trines here involving your sun, moon, or rising. I feel like this is really about getting in touch with your intuition and knowing when to share and when to really kind of put yourself front and center so you have more visibility. It can bring up themes in regards to romantic partnerships. So there can be big conclusions in regards to somebody that you're dating. There can be a really romantic date that can come from this. There can also be an awareness of falling in love or finding out that you're pregnant because the moon is your chart ruler. So to have a lunar eclipse, full moons in general already affect you, but to have it in the 5th house and also in a trine to your ascendant, these things are possible. If you guys already have kids, it can be about adult kids going through some changes. If you don't want to have kids, then it can definitely be about your creative self-expression and anything in regards to your inner child. Now, at the time of this particular eclipse, we're going to have Mars in your sign. So to some extent, there's something going on here where it's really asking yourself, like, what are you passionate about? What are you going after? What do you love? What do you enjoy doing? Where are you taking more action and really putting yourself in a position of taking chances to be able to feel more heart-centered? So I would be asking myself that. With all these oppositions also to your 11th house, it's about friends, goals, coming together, other people, and like where other people can like really help you get in touch with some of these things. Let's take a look, Cancer, and see what the cards say for you. I was waiting for somebody to get it. The Death card, so appropriate with the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. Honestly, I feel like whoever pulls this card, and I'm not just saying this to make you feel better, whoever pulls this card, whichever sign, I feel like is really truly going to probably embody this eclipse quite literally, or not figuratively, literally, but they are going to probably reap the most rewards, which I would have said anyway for like Cancer, Taurus, Scorpio. But the Death card is the card for Scorpio, death, rebirth, regeneration, but it's also about a complete purge and detoxification and the ability to like let one thing end so another thing can begin. So I feel like for you, it may be a turning point where you feel like a crisis has actually brought up something that you really genuinely want to heal, or something that you really are most passionate about, or that you really love. And I think that this is going to help you kind of move through this and welcome new beginnings. So I'm excited to see how this plays out for you, because this is a very potent card to be pulling on this particular eclipse. With Mars in your sign, I'm not surprised. I feel like you're going to kind of have this like all or nothing mentality, and it's going to really give you a sense of courage and using your emotions in a way to kind of like seize the moment. So good luck, Cancer. I hope that's helpful. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's going on, Leo? Don't you just love Scorpio energy right now? Don't you love it? You're not there yet. You're probably watching this early, but oh man. Go back and look at the other eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio over the last 2 years. You know, being that you are a Leo, sun, moon, or rising, then you will be experiencing still some of this grand fixed cross energy. Lucky you. You're having a lot of planetary things go on in angular houses. So with a lunar eclipse in Scorpio in the 4th house, it's like unearthing something in regards to your home, your family, your roots, your past, your emotions. A full moon in the 4th house can bring about some kind of crisis with the family, closing on a home, you know, digging in the backyard to, you know, start building something, and you uncover something shocking, like a problem with, you know, a sewage line, or, you know, there is a sudden ending or a death in the family, obviously, knock on wood. It can also be a time where you're just deeply in your emotions or in your feelings, and you're realizing that like one phase of your home or your life is coming to an end and another one is emerging. Very loud with Pluto in your 7th house, very loud in opposition to a retrograde in your 10th. I'm going to be honest with you. Everything's going to be fine. It may seem like you're having to say goodbye to an old phase of your life, or maybe moving or changing with your home. But what you have to gain is going to be more public recognition, stronger relationships, more focus on your career, lots of change in regards to just continual growth. I promise you, you're on the verge. You're going to see it here very soon as Jupiter gets into Taurus. So that's going to be in mid-May. But in order to better kind of bring your career front and center, you need a lot of change in your relationships, and you need a lot of change in your home. At the time, the ruler Mars is going to be in the 12th house. And so it is kind of saying that there is some, you know, subconscious things going on, or some things that you know are on the precipice of changing. You may not actually initiate that until Mars goes into your sign. You may be feeling like hiding out, kind of getting emotional, being kind of squirrely, but you can't do that. I know you got a lot going on with your career and your partnerships right now, or clients, or just really focus on building your public persona. But what the 4th house teaches you, unless you do that work there, whether it's the solid building or the clearing out, you can't really go out into your 10th house. So I could see some of you guys going, I gotta relocate to take my dream job, right? I have to be able to leave the bachelor pad to move in with a fiance. There's all of this growth coming in relationships and career right now. Yes, some family drama can arise. I would almost anticipate it, and it may be something that kind of comes out of the blue, especially anything in regards to a mother or a female figure with the family. Let's take a look at what the cards say. There you go. The cards are so sassy today. The Strength card. So obviously the universe isn't going to give you anything that you can't handle, right? So I love that the Strength card came up for you, Leo, because quite literally you are featured on the card. I love that you see the woman that's embracing the beast and kind of letting the beast do their thing, rather than making them feel like they have to be kind of cornered. She doesn't have them on a leash. She doesn't have them in a cage. What I love about Scorpio eclipses is like, you're going to learn that, you know, you can't just ignore, you know, some of the demons in the room, as much as I hate to say that. You can't. You kind of have to keep them close by. You have to be aware that they're there. You have to know that there is something that's kind of lurking around that could cause a problem, whether that's a relative or an emotional issue or whatever. And I think that you have the ability to overcome this. There's a lot of courage in this card, and it talks about the willingness to kind of embrace some of these changes, and using that almost as motivation to kind of get to where it is that you want to go. So keep your demons on a leash. That's my advice. Know that they're there. Work with them. Work with some of these difficult things, because it's going to help kind of further propel you into a lot of growth within your relationships and also your career. Okay? Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising, and you're experiencing a lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your natal 3rd house of communication, siblings, vehicles, moving, the mind, travel. So a lunar eclipse here can bring contracts. It can bring, you know, issues with neighbors. It can bring important conversations with siblings. You might be going on a trip, learning something new, purchasing a gadget, all that stuff. At the time of this particular eclipse, we're going to see the ruler in the 11th house. It's in Mars, excuse me, it's in Cancer in your 11th house. And so there is some kind of communication or action maybe going on in regards to your social life, your networks, your friends. I'm wondering, is there important meetings with friends? Do you have to be calling people? Are you setting up things like that? Are you trying to organize travel with some of your friends? Are you focusing on being able to write down and communicate some of your goals? Anything of that nature can be happening. I actually like that Scorpio is going to sextile your ascendant. So it's kind of bringing the attention to your communication style and the mind, making it more possible for you to kind of cut through the bullshit and gain more clarity. I also like that it's in a trine to your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. So it can be something definitively that you agree on with another person and something that you sign. All the while, Mercury, your chart ruler, is going retrograde in the 9th, and we've got a lot of planets in the 9th house. So I'm wondering, are you guys publishing something, learning something, applying for school? Are you going through something legally? Do you have to sign a legal document? Are you going back to court? Something like that might be happening, and it may mean that you just need someone to talk to. You just need someone, you need a friend who's going to give you some good advice about kind of navigating some of these changes, and just really pay attention, because with the South Node and Moon being in the 3rd house, it can represent losses and something that comes. So you may be at a loss and you call a friend, you might go back and forth with a friend and realize we're not communicating well. Be very careful with traveling and vehicles, especially because the moon is going to form a square to Pluto. You guys can be more accident prone or be having issues actually with your vehicles. Let's take a look and see what the cards say for you, Virgo. Watch your words too, watch your words. That's something else I would say. The card that I get is the 4 of Cups. I'm wondering if there is a sense of feeling left out, looking at Mars in the 11th house. Is it friends who are saying, hey, we haven't seen you in a while, I called you, I didn't hear back from you? Is it you feeling like, life is passing you by and other people are doing things and you're not getting to participate with them socially, or that you're not a part of this growth that you're seeing within your social group? 4 of Cups is an energy that's like, nothing really brings you any pleasure. You're kind of sitting there and you're like, nothing really makes me happy anymore. I think the moon in the South Node here is really bringing up the fact that it's time to let go of these ways of thinking or communicating, to actively participate and get more involved with Mars being in the 11th house with some of your friends. And even if that means that their lives are changing or evolving in some way and you might be in a different path, still kind of going there anyway and trying to focus on socializing and staying connected with them, and not allowing yourself to lose a sense of pleasure in things. If you're feeling like nothing's really bringing you interest anymore, then a full moon in the 3rd can mean, book a weekend away, like pick up a new book, like, pick up a new program, do a program for a few weeks, maybe get a bicycle, maybe go walking, listen to a podcast that is going to be about a new hobby or a new interest. And trying to find ways to get the mind stimulated again, so that way you're feeling like you have something to be passionate about and you're letting go of these more negative or pessimistic ways of thinking or communicating, okay? Good luck. For Libra and Libra rising, you are going to be having a lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your natal 2nd house. Okay, so that deals with money, resources, self-esteem, your spending habits. And this is going to be in polarity to all of these planets in your natal 8th house. So that's all going to be about change, emotion, transformation, death, rebirth, anything in regards to joint resources or taxes. At the time of this particular eclipse, we are going to see that the moon is going to be in harmony with Mars in Cancer in your 10th. So it does seem to kind of suggest a full moon here can be a really significant time for money, resources, spending power. Okay, so you guys may be needing to buy something. Maybe you're buying a luxury item. Maybe you're bringing in a lot more money relating to work in your career. I like the trines to Mars in your 10th house. It makes me feel like you're really busy and things are paying off. The retrograde in your 8th and the planets moving through your 8th make me feel like there is some readjustment going on emotionally, financially, or psychologically that has to do with security and other people. So you may be finding that you're talking more about saving money with a partner, making changes with insurance, making changes with investments. And there's definitely some emotional and psychological things that are coming up because of the opposition to Mercury. At the time of this eclipse also, you're going to see that there is loose trines to Saturn and Neptune. So it's all also about like health and like what you're eating. So there can be a sense of changes going on and like really feeling like it's your responsibility to focus on how you're eating and taking care of your body and developing a healthy routine. My advice here is really be cautious, especially for the Libra rising horoscopes, because while I do think that you're going to make a significant purchase, you're going to be buying something, and it may be relating to your career, it'll oppose a retrograde in your 8th. So Libra risings, be very careful with your finances. I do feel like there can be this impulse to want to jump in and invest or buy something, but there are things that are still emerging or getting reorganized in your joint resources. And it may be a time to like check in with an accountant or check in with a partner before making any major investments. See what the cards say for you. The card that I get is the Queen of Cups. Great card. I think this is about intuition and emotions. There can be a water sign that pops in to help you. So it can be a Cancer or a Scorpio or a Pisces. I do think this is about your intuition and making decisions based with your feelings and your emotions. So it might be like but I really want this thing, you know? This is also about feeling like really creative and whimsical and kind of like dreamy. So there can be some sense of you being like, okay, I feel like this is an investment towards something that may unfold and become something more. And just also being more in touch with your emotions, which I really like with this eclipse and a trine to Mars and Saturn. I feel like you're trying to get your schedule in a way where it's kind of in alignment with the life that you're trying to create. So some of you guys may be asking for raises, making changes in your spending habits, upping your prices with these retrogrades in your 8th house because you're becoming more aware of just the time that you're investing in the work that you're doing and that you need more. Good luck. We've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's going on, guys? This is your eclipse. Hopefully it's a good one. Definitely look at those eclipses that have played out over the last couple years. It's going to be really helpful for you. For a Scorpio rising, you're having an eclipse in your 1st house. So this is definitely changes in regards to you personally, your body, your appearance, your emotions, your health. The eclipse associated with the South Node is about letting go of moods. So there can definitely be some moodiness that's going on with this eclipse. Mood swings, emotional situations. The moon is the ruler also of the 9th house. So it can be about how your mood is really changing when it comes to your philosophy, your perspective, when it comes to traveling and what you believe in. Now, this is all going to be in opposition to just a ton of planets in your 7th house, Scorpio. You've got a Mercury retrograde there. You have got the North Node still there, and Jupiter is about to enter into your 7th house. And so I feel like this is an eclipse where there is a sense of being like, okay, well, there goes my freedom, or, it's not just about me anymore. Now it's about another person. And it's like there's a vortex that's sucking all of the energy into the 7th house. And you're realizing that other people need you. Now it can be clients, spouses, business partners. It can be your marketplace. So it's what you're getting ready to present to the world and what you're getting ready to start selling. And it can be about, partners like counselors, therapists, with a Mercury retrograde. It's a great time to reconnect with a therapist or to go and book a reading with your astrologer. So these new people may be coming into your life, but they're coming in to help support some of the changes that you're going through or that you may be resisting. What I like is that, the moon in Scorpio is a part of this water trine. That's really great because it's activating your 1st, 5th, and 9th house. And I think it's going to be about the way that you look at what you love, what you're creating, right? What you're growing. So it can be your own YouTube channel. It can be your family. It could be the way that you're looking at your inner child, anything in regards to happiness and romance and creativity. I'm really excited to see, all of these planets in the 7th house polarized, because if you're out of balance when we have eclipses in the 1st and the 7th house, where you're not giving your all to another person or another person's not giving their all to you, an eclipse is just going to magnify that and show where something is just kind of out of whack. A Mercury retrograde also here at the same time seems to kind of symbolize that there may be people who are going back and forth and like having a difficult time communicating or making up their mind. And I would just encourage you to kind of be patient, because it does make me feel like the eclipse on your ascendant is going to bring you a profound amount of wisdom that you may realize it's all about your perspective, and it may have the ability to kind of smooth over any miscommunications or issues that you're having with other people. watch your body, watch your health, especially if you're traveling. No elective surgeries or anything like that, please. There can be grand reveals, changes with your body, changes with your appearance, changing your hair, the way you look. And I think a lot of this might be, some kind of personal crisis, which leads to like a breakthrough. And with the moon being on the ascendant, trine Saturn and also trine Mars, some of you guys are really passionate about finding love or connecting with someone. And it may also be a time where some of you guys are realizing that you're getting ready to have a huge change in your home life or within your family life, because you got Saturn in the 5th house of children and Pluto in the 4th house of home. So some of you guys will, on this particular eclipse, find out that you're pregnant, or that there is some dramatic situation that's changing with you that's also going to affect a partner. So let's take a look at what's going on with this eclipse. The card that I get is the Four of Pentacles. Kind of holding the line, okay? And there can be a sense of holding back or holding on too strongly, or, not knowing like where to let go. What I love about this card is it just kind of reminds me of the relationship with money, at least the way that I see it, right? Because money is like it's a fluid energy. If you're holding on to it too tight, you can't let it come in, right? If you're just holding on and saving and penny pinching, you're not allowing it to flow. And if you're just spending recklessly, you're never going to be able to save and hold on to things. So it's about finding that balance between, is it too much? Is it not enough? And I think that's literally the eclipse on your ascendant, is like, do I totally fly off the handlebars? Or, is it a matter of me like not opening up enough or not communicating enough? And realizing that there is some rebalancing that's kind of going on with you personally. And it's going to kind of help you feel a little bit more so grounded if you ease up a little bit. There can be emotional like floodgates too with eclipses in your 1st house. So that can be something that can happen with the oppositions to your 7th. And I think it's helping you kind of better assess and determine, what is it that I want? What do I hold on to? What do I let go of? All of this energy is in hard axis to Pluto, your chart ruler, in the 4th. So I think it's a lot of you going back and forth with your home, your past, your family, what crisis or changes are coming there, and how it's actually throwing you further into, I have to communicate, I need assistance, I need others, I need partners. And I would say finding that balance is the key right now. It's about not being too kind of closed off, but it's also about not flying off the handle and trying to kind of keep even keel until you find that things stabilize a little bit more with this retrograde in your 7th house. Okay? Good luck. We've got Sag and Sag rising. Welcome to a lunar eclipse in Scorpio. You're going to be glad these are going to be over pretty soon, I would imagine. A lunar eclipse full moon in your 12th house is going to be bringing up hidden fears, subconscious issues, and self-undoing. Mystical, magical, spiritual, lots of dreams, lots of intuitive downloads, and kind of just subconsciously clearing out patterns. When you have this particular eclipse in the 12th house, it's going to be polar to all of these energies in the 6th. I can see a lot of you guys having like stress and things going on with your digestion and your health because you're realizing it's tied to things that are going on with you subconsciously or mentally, emotionally. Remember that the 12th house represents the subconscious state, so sleep or when we're behind the scenes or when we're in private. The 6th house is more like our health and our habits. So you're seeing these eclipses for the last 2 years have been in your 12th and your 6th house axis. So a lot of you guys have become aware, wow, I'm experiencing some bad eating habits, but it's connected to some emotional issues. I'm experiencing a tendency to have a lot of nervousness and digestional problems, but it's connected to not communicating or not breathing or not dealing with this trauma. Overworking, and where, overworking can send the body into a spiral in a state where you just need more rest and recuperation. Obviously, Scorpio energy in the 12th house is very intense. It will make you possibly a little squirrely. There can be moments where you're like, I just need rest. I need to be alone. I'm in my feelings. Let me be. The moon is also connecting to your 8th house. So it's about, rebirth, letting go, deaths, endings, regeneration. And we're watching the moon form trines with Saturn and Neptune loosely, and also Mars loosely in the 8th. So it can be about this realization that changes are coming for the family. Changes are coming in the way that you spend money with your resources. Changes are coming with a parent. And maybe that they're guiding you in the process of buying your first home or renovating a home. Maybe it's that you're having to move a parent in, or you're having to deal with them getting older. But the moon being the ruler of the 8th house is just how you're processing and dealing with how some of these changes are coming, and that it can make you feel rather uncomfortable. Watch for your hidden fears. They can come up here. At the time of the eclipse, with Mars being in the 8th house, it's comfortable there. I would encourage you guys to like soak, take hot baths, be in hot tubs, go swimming, you know, use like a spa or a sauna, anything to kind of just help work some of these emotions through your body. And this particular eclipse, like I said, is going to be in polar opposition to all of these planets in Taurus in the 6th. Like, you need healthy supporting food. You probably need to readjust your schedule right now, because there is some stuff that's coming up that you need to process and work through. There can be a sense of having challenges with health or a crisis with health that sends you to a place of needing healing or needing more rest, right? The 12th house can be a hospital. It can be a doctor's office. It could be going and getting a surgery. It could be a rehab or a mental hospital. And you want to watch where you're just working through things and not acknowledging that you need time to kind of rest and recuperate, right? And healing, spiritual healing, emotional healing, trauma, therapy, counseling can be wonderful things to help you kind of move through some of this stuff and better adjust your lifestyle and your schedule, so that way you're creating more time to kind of heal, rest, and recuperate. Let's take a look what the cards have to say for you. The card that I got for you is the Magician. I like this for you. I kind of feel like this is saying like you're a master of your own reality. Like if you want to, you have the ability to create change, whether that's changing how you're working, changing your schedule, changing your habits. As above, so below. So anything is possible as long as you have all the elements kind of at your convenience. And we do. Hey, we've got a lot of water stuff going on, but we do have a ton of earth. We do have a little bit of fire. There is an ability to create change. The 6th house is an annoying house. It's health issues and delays and organization and responsibilities and getting the work done and having, you know, systems in place. But I feel like this is an opportunity for you to, you know, adjust the things that you need to. It's all just about your mindset and what you're hoping to accomplish. So what the Magician really teaches us is that when we implement and we work with all of the various elements, right? Water for emotion, fire for passion, earth for groundedness, air for communication and intellect, we can use all of these things to be able to make magic happen. So you're having to work a little bit harder to figure out how to get things in order. And maybe it might be a matter of, with this eclipse in the 12th house, finding a way to kind of spiritually ritualize this and kind of go, I need some support. I'm giving it up to the universe. You know, give me some guidance, give me a dream, give me a sign, so I know what direction to be going in, right? Good luck, my Saggies. Got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You're going to be having a lunar eclipse taking place on May the 5th. Okay, it'll be on May the 5th in Scorpio in your natal 11th house. This is all going to be about your goals, your networks, your friends, your collective groups. It's a really great time for parties. It's a great time to focus on being with other people, going to dinner parties, gatherings, get-togethers. If you are partnered, because the moon rules your 7th house, you know, bring them with you to go and have dinner with friends. If you're single, go to a mixer, go to an event, go to a party. You might meet someone. I also feel like it can be great for just bringing in clients and connecting with other people in general. You know, it's all in opposition to your 5th house, where you have a ton of planets right now. And it's all about what you're creating, your personal, you know, projects, what you love, what you're designing, your talent. And so this is a wonderful time to take some of that, right, and kind of go and show it and share it with other people. So if you're an artist, if you're a designer, if you're an actor, if you're a performer, get out in front of other people. That's the best advice I can give you with this eclipse. Scorpio's friendly. It does sextile you Capricorn, so it's feeding into your personal sun, moon, or rising placement. We got a ton of planets in Taurus that's trining your ascendant. So this is an easier eclipse for you, in my opinion. Yes, the ruler Mars is in the 7th house, so there's a lot of action going on with relationships right now. People may be prompting you to get out of the house, get out of your comfort zone, go out and about and socialize. I really recommend doing it on this particular eclipse, because I feel like there might be some really good news or some connections that you're going to have with other people that will make you feel extremely loved and will also give you the capabilities of being able to share some of your creative endeavors with them. I'm curious with all these planets in the 5th house and Jupiter going into the 5th house, what you're growing, what you're creating, what you're developing. Is it going to be, your very own, channel? Is it going to be launching your own business? Is it that you're really finally taking a hobby to the next level and turning it into a business? Does it involve younger people, parties, children, gambling, taking chances? These are all 5th house things. But I like this eclipse for you. Honestly, I think it's going to be just about networking and connecting with people and being able to share with people some kind of good news that you may potentially have. Let's take a look and see what the cards say for you, my Capricorns. But yes, I guess the downside of an eclipse in Scorpio in the 11th is, having a fallout with a friend, having an argument, there being some situation where, your kid is having problems with another kid on the playground with that opposition to the 5th. Or maybe you're having some challenges in regards to relating to other people and maintaining a positive relationship with them because you're more focused on what makes you happy right now. So other people might want you to go and participate in something and you might go, nah, actually I'm kind of busy. I'm doing something else. You are also getting the Death card. So Capricorn, you're in the same boat as who else? Who else got this? I don't remember, but whoever else got this, you're in the same boat as them. So this is really interesting. I think it was Cancer. How appropriate. Change, death, rebirth, transformation. So maybe you're kind of going like, I don't know if those people are my people anymore. Like, it's fun, but I'm kind of going in my own direction. I in Italy have my South Node in the 11th house, my North Node's in the 5th. Thankfully, I'm blessed with like some amazing friends. But I've noticed that with this placement, there is like a tendency of like even being in a room full of people who I love and people who, love hanging out with me, I would hope. There's always this sense of being like, yeah, but like, what about what I would rather be doing or my interests? And so I came in with the South Node of having the gift of friendship, but it's more about finding my own path. And I think that's kind of how this YouTube has materialized, is like, this is my thing. Ironically, a lot of my friends are artists and creatives and performers. Anyway, right now, you're going through the process of realizing like, it's okay to have changes in friendships, right? Eclipse in your 11th. It's okay to move away from that. It's okay to, go and want to nurture my own hobbies or my own interest or like what I'm really focused on creating. So you may feel like just because you're paying more attention to that, it might be making some changes in some of your social connections. Okay, good luck. I love that you got the Death card. That's like such a nod from Pluto and this eclipse. Let me know what happens. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You will be having a lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your natal 10th house. Oh boy, you and all the other fixed signs. This is the last lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your 10th house of career, reputation, work, responsibility, your public image. So yeah, some of you guys can be quitting jobs, launching new businesses, becoming, the manager or, the CEO in some way. Some of you may be retiring. Some of you guys may be realizing, this particular position, this career, this path is not for me anymore. That can be happening as well. Ending jobs, letting go of jobs, layoffs. Yes, that can happen. It doesn't mean it'll happen for everybody, but considering it's in the 10th house, considering it also is in a trine loosely to Mars in the 6th, sure, it can be that you're really focused on, getting to work, and there is a lot of work and there is more work on your shoulders and more responsibility. Sure, maybe. But some of you guys with the eclipse here and Mars in the 6th might be realizing that you're on to bigger, better things. You're on to greener pastures. We'll see a loose trine also to Saturn and Neptune. So I'm wondering if some of you guys are kind of going like, yes, the work is there, but do I want to keep making money in this way? And like, do I enjoy my schedule, right? Pluto is the sub-ruler. I haven't talked about that a lot. Really, I want to focus more on Mars, but Pluto being that ruler and the square to the nodes is also telling me it's about how you're going through change and transformation personally as you're seeing shifts happen in a professional sense and you're having to adapt to some of these changes, right? And it can also be about your body going through changes and how that's impacting work or career or professional life as well. I think for the most part, looking at the square and also just the stellium of planets in the 4th house is it's not all about work right now. So if you have a job and you're employed, awesome. But with Jupiter going into your 4th house soon, with a retrograde in your 4th house, with so many planets in your 4th house, it's about your emotions, your home, your family, getting grounded. If anything comes from your career stuff that's beneficial, great. But I think there's so much potential change happening for you on an emotional level and in your private life that really your career is not your MO. And there can be a sense of being so consumed with home, private life, or family things, or moving or relocating that you're like, you know what, I just don't have time for this right now. And you may feel the pull between work responsibilities and the fact that you may rather be at home, or there's things changing with where you're living or with your family or with your kids. That is possible. I would say just, it's all about how you're embracing change, right? I'm going to keep telling you that until the nodes are no longer scoring Pluto in your sign. Now that Pluto is retrograde, I want you to reevaluate what can you change. If you feel like you can't change work or your bosses or your clients, or you can't change the world, you can't change your home or your family, what can you change personally? I would start there, because you're going to feel that there are a lot of things that are out of your control with some of these squares that are kind of coming up. And it's going to be about how you're embracing this new version of yourself. I got a lot of Aquariuses in my life. I know a lot of Aquarius risings who are going through this currently, and they're all just kind of telling me like, family seems topsy-turvy, home life seems questionable, you know, making shifts and changing out of something in terms of what I'm doing professionally. And I just keep asking them, what can you change, right? Don't get too distracted with all the static, and look forward to there being some conclusion in regards to your career as well. If you're launching something, if you're getting ready to get approved for something at work, if there's a presentation, if you're leading a team, or, you know, you're focusing on being able to perfect something, it'd be wonderful energy for you right now with this particular eclipse. But yes, it is in a fixed sign, and it's 10 signs away from you, Aquarius, which represents a Saturn energy. So it feels like a lot of work, a lot of emotional work, right? The card that I get is the Ace of Swords, which is the other death card. But this is a card that for me is about communication, ideas, information, contracts, new beginnings when it comes to sharing what's on your mind and how you think. I love that this is my other death card. So when this comes up reversed for me in a reading, this can be a, yeah, it's over, or it's terminated, or they're not coming back, or they're not moving forward. And it does connect to Pluto for me. So Pluto being in Aquarius in your sign, you're already going through that death and rebirth process. I feel like it's literally about how you're talking about change, and how you're talking about transformation, and how you're talking about death and new beginnings, how you express that, how you talk to people about that, right? That seems to be the big key right now. Be mindful of your words and how you're communicating. Yes, it's frustrating with some retrogrades in your 4th, but I feel like it's going to give you the ability to observe and allow other people to kind of like run around with chickens with their heads cut off, and wait until people step in and ask for assistance. But until then, just, you know, conserve your energy and your mental state, okay? Good luck. And we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. You will be having a lunar eclipse in Scorpio in your 9th house on May the 5th. This will be in a fellow sister sign. So if you are a Pisces sun, moon, or rising from 13 to about, let's say, 16 degrees, you're going to benefit from this the most. You will be experiencing a trine. A lunar eclipse in your 9th house is going to bring up themes revolving around beliefs, legal situations, traveling, education, publishing, okay? Mentors, teachers, gurus. Because Scorpio is a sister sign, in theory, this will be easier for you to manage. I like that the eclipse is tying in your 5th house lord. So it's about traveling for fun, what you're learning about life, what you're learning about your creativity, what you're learning about love, long distance opportunities for relationships, visas, passports, documents. These may be themes right now because you're experiencing a Mercury retrograde in your 3rd. So some of you guys may need to re-up a document, a passport, so you can travel. You may be communicating and talking to a partner about moving or moving in together because Mercury's connection to your 7th. And I feel like with the moon in a light trine to Saturn and Neptune in your sign, it's all about you being clear about your boundaries, your needs, your vision, your goals, and how you're tying that into what you're learning, what you believe in, where you're traveling, or just the bigger picture of life. If you are waiting to find out if you will graduate, that can happen with this eclipse. If you're waiting to find out if you got accepted into a program, if your book is going to be, you know, published, if you're getting ready to launch a campaign or teach something, if you're looking for a mentor or a teacher, all great ways with this particular eclipse. But I have a hunch that with Mars, the ruler, being in your 5th house, it's going to be more about what your bigger picture of life in regards to what you love, who you're with, who you're dating, what you're doing for fun, what you're doing for children, what chances you're taking when it comes to possibly getting married, settling down, or just really focusing more on what your heart wants is actually going to work in your favor, right? Yes, the moon is uncomfortable in this sign, but I feel like it is really harmonizing with planets in your 1st house, and you may feel like you're just really opening up more emotionally than ever before. I could also see this being a time where there is a trip that's going on, so you have to physically get on a plane and go somewhere. You're traveling to a place that's far away or that you've never been before, and you may be doing this to go and meet somebody, a romantic partner, or to go and check out a college, or to potentially go and have a meeting about publishing something, or maybe you're planning or going on a retreat. That's the other way that I could look at this. But the 9th house is an overall positive, lucky house. And I get the feeling that this is about you really adopting a new belief system or a new mentality, and a spiritual or religious practice that's kind of helping you kind of maintain the faith in your day-to-day routine, okay? Let's take a look and see what the cards have to say for you, my Pisces. The card that I get is the Star card. So it's about healing, rest, recuperation, kind of the calm after the storm. This is also about connecting with groups of others. So what I like is like maybe perhaps you're just focusing on where you can go, you know, and connect with people, what you're integrating in terms of culture or philosophy that's helping you feel like you're collectively a part of a group. The Star card can also be about wishes, wish fulfillment. This is a card that's also associated with Aquarius, and the sub-ruler of this eclipse, Pluto, is in your 12th house. So it's a profound time to really reflect on your goals, connecting with the cosmos, connecting with people internationally, really focusing on some of your desires, especially subconsciously, and doing some manifestational work. I like that you're also going to be seeing lots of positive aspects from all these planets in Taurus to the ascendant. So I would say like speaking out, writing things down, writing down your manifestations, and really integrating that into something that can be some kind of like ritual or spiritual routine can be the way to move forward, right? But I see lots of healing coming in the ability for you to be able to kind of join with other people and really see some of your goals come to fruition. Really exciting for you, Pisces. All right, guys, well, that is it for me in terms of this particular eclipse that we're going to be seeing in Scorpio. I hope it's a good one for you guys. Please feel free to come back to this video. Leave me comments in terms of how this played out for you. Are you having this eclipse on a personal planet? Is it your birthday? I want to hear all about it. I imagine this is going to be a very colorful Cinco de Mayo. So if you guys are out there drinking and having a good time or celebrating, please just be careful because these eclipses can be rather intense. And if you guys like my content, don't forget to make sure that you hit the subscription button below. Give me a thumbs up, and sharing is caring. You guys can catch me here on Friday nights. I'm doing readings. So as these energies are kind of playing out, you guys can check in. Although I will tell you, because this eclipse is going to fall on a Friday, I do not believe I will be doing I will be doing live readings that day. So I'll try to find a day to do it before or after. So that'll be in a couple of weeks when I post this, but I will not be doing eclipses that day. I will not be doing readings that day because it's an eclipse. See, I'm already getting frazzled. All right, guys. Well, I will see all of you very soon. I hope you guys enjoyed this eclipse video. I'm sending you guys all good vibes as we get ready for it. And I will see all of you very soon. Take care.